now we're going to get to the meat and potatoes of our function today. We have, again, like I mentioned earlier, an awesome panel of speakers. We've got Aria Childers from AMA Madison, or AMA National, I should say. We've got Lorissa Banuelos from the city of Madison. We've got Bianca Martin from CityCast Madison. And then we have Ryan Haack, who's an author, advocate, and a whole bunch of other things. A couple of things I just want to mention off. April is DEI Awareness Month. Anybody know that? Yeah, well, now you know. And that was really, I felt like when we were getting our programming plan organized for this year, it was really important for me to do something around this topic. And I thought that this was the perfect day. And that's not a joke. Just kidding. That was embarrassing. No. It was really bad. So I thought we could kick things off. Again, but getting back to like the planning of this event, I knew what was really important to me. What I didn't expect is what a hot topic DEI would be in the last few months. It's controversial, and it's just in the news all of the time. I was even just doing a little Google search, and I was astonished at how much was coming up in the news last night. So it's more important than ever that we have functions like this. So please raise your hands if you have any questions. I wanted to give a little bit of a corporate America perspective. I started working at an accounting and advisory firm called KPMG. We have 227,000 employees globally. So as I was saying earlier, talk about feeling like a little cog in the wheel. But we have a very, very prevalent stance on diversity and inclusion. It has a very robust training program and an employee support system within the organization. As a company that has such like an outward position on DEI, how do you think corporate America has been handling things? I think that that's a great question for our panel to dive into. Anyone want to chat? I will say that I'll just go into one quick thing about KPMG. We have actually been, as a marketing team, been having, I think, pretty much weekly meetings over the last 4 weeks all around DEI and how we are externally positioning ourselves. And we've been very firm that some of the changes that we have been making in our language really comes with just making sure that we are aligning to the executive orders that went out. It doesn't necessarily mean there is a rollback in the actual programming, because it is a very prevalent place. So, I personally had been kind of thinking about like, oh, Target, what have you done? And I was a little salty at some of the big corporations that looked like they may have been rolling things back. And I don't know that that's actually the case all of the time. So that has softened me a little bit. So I'm going to turn this over to our panel. How do you think corporate America is handling DEI these days?
Oh, okay. Like you said, Carrie, I look back to when we even talked, I think it was like July or August. So then zoom into January, February, March, and now here we are. It's been a lot. And I think even the conversations that we've had, correct me if I'm wrong, KPMG is a huge partner of PhD Project, which we're closely connected to at the AMA. And so kind of taking notes from them too, and talking even with our lawyers as well. And what we've seen is how corporations kind of have fallen into these three buckets, whether that is kind of scaling back, maybe mostly entirely, and kind of maybe I would say playing the safer route, and just saying, okay, we're not going to rock the boat. We know who our audience is, our stakeholders, etc. We're going to pivot for now. You have this middle bucket then of maybe, like you said, adapting some of the language, but the values are still the same. because at the end of the day, when DEIA is integrated, I think within an organization, it doesn't matter maybe if we play with the letters as much or if policy is going to impact some words. But if it's there, if it's authentic, it's going to remain the same. And then you see corporations, I think like Costco too, where they're doubling down. But in that model specifically, we compare a lot. Sorry, going back to like the Costco model even versus the Ford model, where they're impacted more by these policies, by government funding and so on. So yes, they might have to react a different way. And then you have a corporation like Costco, where it's more membership based. I go to Costco and the granola bars that my son wants are there one week, but they're not there the other week. And so even the product then is different, week to week too. So not as impacted in maybe where different items come from, funding, et cetera, tariffs. We could go on. So they're doubling down as well and saying, no, full steam ahead, or this is who we are. And so it's been interesting then to see which kind of buckets and pathways that different organizations, corporations are falling into over these last few months for sure.
Yeah, there's a diversity of how people are handling it, right, in the different corporations. I'm thinking about Target. I think I saw some Black female like hair product creators say like, no, my line is gone. Like I've got all of this product. They cut us. Like Target went so hard, like, and in terms of what they were marketing and what products are like right in front when you walk in. And so I know there are corporations that are like, okay, great, let's go back to the way it was, which obviously sucks for people who use Black hair products from Target.
Yeah.
I don't know who that'd be.
It looks great.
Oh, thank you. Well, I still have the products from before. I haven't been for a second. But I know I can't speak to all the corporations, but like the one that I work for instance, they're like, we're in a position where we get to decide how we're approaching this and we're not changing our standards. But I know obviously dependent on, groups that are dependent on government money is going to impact their choices. And like you look at UW-Madison or these different places that like need to be like, oh my gosh, this is core to our mission. And so is having the money to accomplish our mission. So, I mean, in general, it's chilling. I just wanted to, first of all, thank Carrie who put this together. Like I was asked to be on this panel last year. Like a long time ago, like, I don't know, 8 months or something. So she really means it when the climate was different. And just in the past few months, like the stark actions we're seeing are really disturbing. Like just to say what I assume most of us are thinking. But yeah, I think it is probably a case by case basis. And I appreciate the Costco's. Like I appreciate the companies that are like being outward and vocal that they aren't going to turn away from their diverse customer base. And it looks like the ones who haven't have had it's hit their financial bottom line. So
I had been feeling kind of blue, I won't lie, over the last few months. But recently I actually felt quite hopeful. So I encourage everyone to join me in my hopeful outlook, because I mean, this is a little hippy dippy, I will say that. But I feel like if we all continue to like band our good energy together, that's going to like neutralize hate and encourage inclusivity. So that's maybe my soapbox for today. My next question, I'm going to direct it particularly to Lorissa. She is working for the city of Madison, and I want to talk a little bit more about how communications has changed over the last few months at the city of Madison and the Common Council. How has like your leadership and the constituency navigated this political climate?
Yeah, so I'm lucky to work with at least 20 alders, and the majority of them are very outspoken. So they're almost like brand ambassadors for local government as it is. And the fact that I can assist them in their communication needs is just amazing. As far as like representing the Common Council, I feel like this current administration is using a lot of fear-based language. And yes, they're getting some followers, they're getting a lot of followers, but I do have to say you catch more, flies with honey than you do with whatever. So with that being said, I'm trying to switch the narrative. I'm trying to switch the narrative. There's a lot of attacks against, government, against local government. Well, government works if you work it. And so, yeah. And so,
for you. Government works if you work it. Write that down, people. No.
So basically, I mean, I think one of the things that has helped is actually going into the communities, getting to know their mindsets, getting to know their fears. So that way, everything I do is basically, am I empowering these residents to go to a common council meeting or to vote in the local election? So again, a lot of empowering language, giving the power to them, because when you do have a fear-based narrative, you're taking power away from people, and then that's how you get, king type language. And I think we all can play a part in shaping policy, and also shaping messaging as well. So I'll leave it there.
You kind of talked a little bit about like leaning into your constituency. What else is inspiring you in your work? What are you following? Like what other government organizations are doing? Like where does that lie?
So currently, obviously, we know that trans communities are being heavily attacked right now. We know that Latino communities are being heavily attacked right now. We just had a resolution, the Common Council had a resolution recognizing Trans Visibility Day. And I'm going to admit, I second-guessed or doubted myself as to whether or not this was a good decision to post on Facebook, what the backlash would be, who would be hurt if there was negative comments or whatever. But I ended up posting anyway. And in a time where they're trying to silence these groups, where they're trying to silence allies, I think it's a very good time to be more visible. Going back to like the corporate question, I mean, we all seen what has been happening to Target. Communities want to know that their companies that they're buying from now more than ever are ethical. Gen Zs, all they've known is natural disasters, the polarization. They want to feel safe. The companies that best send that message that, hey, we're going to do everything we can to secure your liberties, your rights, I think will end up playing out. And they're not necessarily investing in a marketing campaign. They're investing in a movement that I do think is probably going to pay out when it comes to the bottom line anyway. So
was an excellent follow-up. Okay, now I'm gonna throw this out to the panel here. So what strategies do you think help maintain integrity without alienating audiences? It's a hard one.
I think a lot of it stems just from authenticity, and knowing your community, knowing your audience, knowing your team, who you're talking to, who your consumers are, and what feels authentic to that space versus just, okay, we're going to post this picture because of this, or we're going to celebrate whatever. Just honestly, tokenism versus authenticity. Tokenism is super easy. It's really easy to just check a box and, okay, cool, got it. But is what we're putting out there, is our content reflective of who we are just naturally? You as all of us as consumers and as customers can see what resonates with us if we can authentically then know if, okay, that piece of marketing, that piece of content, whatever, that story that's on display, somebody then, the person behind that, they share that experience then with me too. I really just think it comes down to a lot of authenticity.
That I love that you say authenticity, and I'm gonna go rogue from my script of questions because I think it's the perfect I know it's so random that I'm going rogue. I want to direct some of this conversation to Ryan. I share I'll share just a quick personal story. So my daughter was born missing her left hand, and yeah. When she was born 15 years ago, there were not a ton of resources. And as a mom looking for more information to better serve my child, I, of course, turned to my favorite resources, the internet. And I came across Ryan, who makes the most relatable and funny and thoughtful videos and posts and blogs, written all sorts of content about what it's like to have one arm or hand, and just about how being different is really like a superpower. And that's how Ryan got his invite today, is because he's so authentic in everything he does. I would recommend, just when you get home later today, go onto YouTube and search Living One-Handed, because his videos have amassed almost 400,000 views on funny things like how to shoot a basket one-handed, how to open a banana, how to, I think, zipper a coat or button pants.
I mean, wrap a Christmas present.
Very simple.
Carve a pumpkin. Yeah.
I wish I knew about that website when I had my broken arm.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, the amount of times, I just saw a friend the other day who he did something to his hand and he had to drive somewhere. I was like, good luck if you need any tips. I know a guy. Yeah. And he was just like, we've known each other for 35 years. And he was just like, dude, I totally forgot. So I was going to say real quick, I just do want to acknowledge the fact, like, one of these things is not like the other. Like, just looking at this panel, right? Obviously, like, I'm bringing something a little different to this discussion. And I think it's important to recognize, like, there are so many different parts of DEI, right? Like, there are so many different things that are not even visible, right? Like, you may have seen me, like, spinning around my chair. I got ADHD so bad, you guys. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, I can't believe I've been talking this whole time. But, like, there are things that you can't see that affect people the same way as well. And so just to recognize the authenticity, I think what she was saying is so true and can be really difficult. That was one of the things that I was going to say, because when you have, I'm going through Target and I see a big thing with a girl who has one hand who's modeling a swimsuit. And I'm like, that's awesome. Now, I think it's awesome. And somebody else might be like, oh, yeah, of course, they're going to put one girl with one hand on there. Yeah, they checked their box. Like, and that's how they're thinking. And so it's hard to know, is it authentic or not? Because people have a bent on what they think and what they assume is the case, right? And so we, as the people who are doing it, we're the only ones who really know that. And so my encouragement, I guess, would be we can be the ones who are authentic, right? We're the only ones who can be authentic in the things that we're doing. And so knowing that that's true, do that, and people are going to respond how they respond. But that's the challenge, is to be authentic. Exactly what she was saying. Like, don't check the box, like, actually do the work. And I know that, like, Bianca and I thought it was super funny. We did the Q&A thing, and we both said, nothing, what is it? Nothing about us without us. Like, we both use that phrase, nothing about us without us. And it's so true that so many times people want to create something that, they will love this. They will feel seen because of this. This will help them. But they don't actually ask us, like, is this helpful to you? Does this make you feel seen? And in many cases, no, it doesn't. I do school visits. There's my book. So I wrote a kid's book called Different is Awesome. And I'll say this now just because it kind of fits with what has already been said. I travel the country and do school visits. I do school assemblies, teaching kids that being different is awesome. And I've been doing it for 12 years now. I'm also a crier. Sorry. I've never had to think before. It's harder now I've never had to think before, like, there are some places that I'm not going to be able to go because they don't want somebody coming in telling kids that being different is awesome, because they don't think being different is awesome. Different is not awesome to them. They want to stop that. And I've never thought about my book being a problem and like being, no, let's not read that book. Let's not teach kids that being different is awesome. And it's like, that's hurtful. That's like scary to me. And so I'm like more determined than ever to be like, I'm going to every possible place I can to get that out there. In any event, sorry, just had to say that because I think it kind of fits with like, what are we doing here, right? But the authenticity piece, I don't even know where I was going. I forgot where I was going. I started crying and then there we went. If I remembered, yes, that's right. It's the being authentic piece. And that's what it was. I was doing a school visit. They were very excited because they got these 3D printers. And so the technology teacher was like, ooh, come and see all the things we're making because we are creating these tools for people like you who have one hand to help them with things and, to help them do things in an easier way, right? So I go to this thing. It's very exciting. She's showing me all these things that are not helpful in any way. Like, they're all very cool, very creative, none of them helpful. And I'm just like, this is awesome. I'm trying to be like super encouraging and like, what an awesome thing to get your kids thinking creatively. And then I said, like, did you ask anyone like who has one hand for ideas on what things could be? And she just was like, oh goodness. And it was just this moment of like, ooh, we should have asked someone who this is for if these things are helpful. And because it would have made the project was amazing. I loved that they were doing it, but that one piece, a huge piece, was missing. It would have made such a difference in that space. And so I think in this space as well, with marketing things in particular, where it's like, okay, they're going to love this. Try to avoid that. Get some people and say, hey, does this make you feel seen? Does this make you feel like you're a part of this? And just have that be a part of the conversation, I think. All right, I'm gonna stop.
But I want to know, when you first started posting and sharing, did you expect it to grow the way it did?
No. So the way that I started, so I was born with one hand, and I really didn't think about it a lot when I was growing up. I was just a little kid who was doing his thing, and my personality was pretty outgoing, and I was very athletic and just had a lot of friends and did whatever. And then when I was, I don't know, in my early 30s, I went to Culver's and ate dinner by myself, huge night. And a mom walked in with her little kid. It was like 2 blocks from my house, and he had one arm like I did. And I just was like, what the heck? It like blew my mind because I was never really like looking for it. And so to see it like in my neighborhood, for some reason, it just clicked. And then she came over and we had a little conversation, and it seemed super important to her, which obviously makes sense now. But at the time I was like, wow, this is like changing her life, seeing me having dinner by myself. Wow, what an inspiration. And so it was really then when I was like, okay, I feel like I could be a little more intentional than just eating dinner at Culver's by myself. And so then that was when I kind of started doing things intentionally to be like, okay, I can share my experience and share how do I handle when people stare at me? How do I handle when they ask me questions when I don't want to be asked questions? How do I share my story in a way that doesn't make them feel bad or what, just a million different things. And my hope is that it helps parents especially find out that they're going to have a kid who has one hand, that it's going to be okay. Like that's the whole goal really, right?
Nailed it.
But right. But yeah, I did not anticipate that it would become as important as it has and fulfilling as it has. So yeah, it's been amazing.
Thank you. I am going to pose this primarily mostly to Aria because of her position at AMA National. And I think a lot of the work that she does revolves around this. But building an inclusive marketing team is important. And I would like to know, how do you think that translates to having better teams, more authentic campaigns, better results?
I mean, I feel like, Ryan, you killed this answer already. So it's not going to be really anything new, but like you said, who's around the table? I think the key component to that question is in the answer of inclusive teams. It's not the responsibility of one person. In an organization, it's not, maybe I shouldn't say this. Like I'd love to work myself out of not a job, but the goal is not to have a person in the DEIA department or in that role, but how is it vetted? How is it the responsibility for everybody collectively to champion, to think through that lens? And like you said, who's around the table too? It is not right then for one person who's on, who's around a table, who maybe is a part of an underrepresented group, then to be the voice for all marginalized people and groups then, period. Like, I can't tell Ryan's story, Ryan can't tell mine, and that is not authentic. So yes, who's not just around the table, but who are decision makers, who is a key part of the conversation, and listening and understanding those experiences too. And that does start from the top down. Like, it has to be then embedded internally first as a team, as an organization, before that's going to be caught and received externally too. How is it spoken about within even your organization, your company, your marketing team as well? Is it something that's just an afterthought of, oh yeah, we should probably do X, Y, Z, or is it just this is who we are? It's all of us, and it takes the intentionality and the responsibility for us. I mean, like I said, like, policies can impact letters, they can impact how we talk about things, but I know the mission of the PhD project is still the same. Yes, we might have to adjust because of what's going on in the world, but all in all, policy is not going to impact the values then if it is authentic to your team, to your organization. But it's on all of us.
My kids' book that I wrote is based on a true story. It's called Different is Awesome. One of my younger brothers, one year, his teacher told him to bring something awesome for show and tell, so he brought me. Because why wouldn't you do that? It's my brother. He's got one hand. You can guess where it went from there. But I've had so many people since then, because obviously you can't, one of the things in the book is that it shows a lot of the classmates who there's something different about all of us, right? That's the point, is that we're all different in some way or another, and that's awesome. But I can't show every difference in the whole world, right? So there's just a few different things. But over the years, I will have someone come up and say, oh, you should write a book about someone who has ABC, XYZ, whatever. And I'm always like, but that's not this is my story. But that's not my story. Like, could I write it? I could, but that isn't my story. And so that sounds like it's your story. So maybe you should tell that story. And so it is about, like you were saying, like, what is your story? What's your perspective? What do you bring to it? And that's why it's so important to have a team, to have so many people at that table to share those things.
And not to sound cheesy, probably still waking up, not really a morning person, but like, I think that is the beautiful thing about marketing too, and being able to tell the breadth and depth of just people and humanity and all of that. And it's a beautiful thing. So we should be leaning into that, and we should be celebrating that and stewarding that well. And like you said, and that's a piece of it.
Talk a little bit about quick wins, because I want everyone here to be able to take a few things home today that they can very easily implement in how they are working in marketing every day. I will share some of the things we do at AMA Madison are really come down to intentionality of speakers. I wanted this year specifically to make sure that we were having a wide-ranging group of folks to come present material to you. I am very proud to say that 80% of our speakers this year are from a marginalized community, which I think is I'm very proud of that. I'll be quite honest. So here, hold on, just pat myself on the back about that. But I feel like looking outside of the regular scope for how you are hiring vendors, how you are bringing people into projects, is making sure that your scope is wide is a great quick win for you to implement. And I have a whole bunch of other ones, but I want to turn it over to the panel to see if they can make some recommendations about quick wins to having great, accessible marketing.
I feel like I should have spoken up before this guy. I think I don't want to take over like the quick wins because maybe other people have those, but I feel like something that has been posited is that sometimes long wins are more like sort of this work is a long-term project, and building trust in your community and the different communities within Madison and that you market to is really huge. And it is, I just wanted to like re-up my brain right now. I also have ADHD. If you put me in an MRI machine, it's like lit up. I've got like 100 stories and like experiences just to corroborate what everyone is saying. And yeah, no, but I think if I would posit a quick win is just like every small step that you're taking to build trust and allow other people to tell their stories. Like when you teared up, all of us probably recognize the power of seeing yourself represented. And I just love so much what you said, like DEI is so many things. It's not just race or, it's, maybe I have endometriosis. I don't, obviously, but it's 1 in 10 women, it's ADD. It's meant, there are all of these different ways that we have our diverse stories, and like anchoring lived experience and hearing from people their lived experience will make a really big difference in your campaigns. Because if you don't have anyone who has that lived experience and you want to market their story, there's a very high chance that you might make a misstep. But if you do include folks, the possibility of making a real difference and building that trust over time is just huge. I just really quickly, I remember a friend who's not really a friend, but someone that I met who is a comedian who's like, I want to tell, he was a white man, the story of a Black trans woman. And he was like building a whole mini series about it. And I was like, do you have, is there someone on your team who's a Black, or like, he didn't have a team. He's like, no, that's actually a really good idea. So oversights are real. And, if you can't yourself, if you don't have already, you have your team and you don't maybe have the representation for the group you're marketing to, like think about, focus groups. And I just want to tell one more story, and I'm sorry, Carrie, I'm totally usurping this. But I was at, I've worked at different public radio stations. I was out in another city and they had a marketing firm who they came in to like find out about our audience and the demographics. And one of the questions was like, do you guys watch 106 Park? Or it's an old show on BET that had been canceled for like 8 years. So it was like, y'all, like whoever is doing this marketing, like this is so, like this is missing the, yeah. So I guess quick win, small steps of like building trust and trying to include other people in your work, from all walks of life.
I think a quick win is utilizing your resources, and whether it's doing a training or reading an article, but like applying whatever you won or learned or whatever is, I think that can go a long way, and applying that into your strategy. And for example, there is Government Alliance of Racial Equity, that it stands for GARE, and they have a ton of resources, and it has just made such an impact and difference in the work that our team does. And again, it just has made us so much more confident. So I guess, you know, you have to be passionate about the stuff that you're taking in, and yeah, I'll leave it there.
That's awesome. Were you gonna say something, Ryan?
Yes. I'm not exactly sure how this is going to come out, but I think it's going to be good. My encouragement would be to be brave, to be courageous, because this is a tricky space to be in, whether we want to acknowledge that or not. Like, we can, when you jump into this space, I would say you're going to make mistakes. Like, you just are. And I think the authentic thing is to own it and to correct, like to say, oh man, we tried. It was coming from a good place. We missed it. This is what we've done to fix it. And this is how we're moving forward with it. So I think that's really important. I mean, being in kind of the disability space, right? I do not envy anyone who's outside of the disability space, who's trying to do anything like in allyship or whatever. Like, I've been torn apart by people within the disability community because you cannot win with just words. Like, I put a video out saying, I just said, I'm disabled, like owning the word and explaining why and whatever. I've never received so many horrible messages from moms, guys. Moms, ooh, don't mess with moms, y'all. Like, but the thing was, like, they completely missed the message of what I was explaining about the word disability or disabled, and only went into, I will never call my child disabled because of all the negative connotations that come with it, which is what I was explaining about it. And so it was just one of those things where it was like, almost no matter what you do, someone's going to be mad because someone's going to take it in a way that you didn't intend it, whatever it happens to be. And so the bravery, I think, comes in saying, okay, this is where it's coming from. It is authentic. We've asked people, we have people on the team, we're moving forward with it. If people are mad, they're going to be mad. It's okay. This is what we're doing. If we make a mistake, we're going to own it. We're going to move forward. And so I feel like those kinds of things, although they're not easy, quick wins, like, they're challenging, but they're actual practical, functional, like doing things types of wins. Does that make sense? Because it's one of those things where there's hope. Absolutely. It's exciting. It's good. It's the right thing to do, but it's also I know a lot of people who completely just steer clear. They're like, I'm not touching that because I know no matter what I do, I'm going to get ripped up. And so it does require, I think, bravery. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I love that you mentioned the word disabled. I will just share personally, my daughter came to me once and she was like, am I disabled? And I was like, well, technically.
I mean, I used to, when I filled out forms for a job and stuff, when it asked for disabled, I was like, I don't know. Am I supposed to say yes or no? I have no idea.
Yeah.
So I just left it blank. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I showed up and was like, hey.
Yeah.
Can I share something really cool that I heard an organization in Madison is doing? They had a flap. I'm just not even going to say who they are, but their organization basically implemented an hour every week to do the work. I know that that's an overly used phrase, but I was just really inspired and taken back by that. You know, like, I had a coffee with whatever, maybe their marketing director, I'm forgetting. But I was like, oh my gosh, that is really, really smart, because like every single one, like, we all have blind sides, and just engaging with the work on your team, like, how can you be more prepared for these moments? That's how, like, prepare, like, spend a little time and engage with the tough work, because I really appreciate your point. Like, it's going to take emotional vulnerability to do a sort of campaign that's maybe out of your realm. But I mean, it's emotionally vulnerable to be from a marginalized group. You know, it's sort of that work. So if we do the work collectively, that's kind of the golden spot. That's not a phrase, but the sweet spot. Yeah.
Okay, we talked about doing some quick things, and basically we have all sorts of little tactics that we can put into our marketing. We can do alt tags. We can caption videos. We can, have a diverse visual representation. Let's talk about the long game.
Oops.
How do you measure? Like, this is tough to measure, right? And as marketers, we're all always looking to quantify our actions, right? So how can marketing teams track and like show the real impact of inclusivity efforts, essentially? Are there metrics? Is it a framework? Is it a feeling? I mean,
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I think, a lot of those, all of those. I thinking back even discussions that we're having at the AMA, as I think moving into this new phase of what even DEIA looks like, post 2020, post George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, like so on, and that kind of reactionary space that now we're seeing this kind of divot of like, okay, who's really leaning into this, and who as far as like corporations, organizations, teams, etc., has incorporated this as a value, and versus, okay, maybe this was just like relevant for the time, again, reactionary and so on. And so then with that, what are those measurements, and what do they look like? What are those impact-driven KPIs even? Is this then breaking down, okay, these are the populations of just who we want to serve in our community, already, and where do we want to then grow? I think even through like from AMA programming and our scholarships, like we have a host of undergraduate scholarships, for example, and wanting to grow then who we're even reaching out then towards, and who is even applying for those, who is aware of those. We have a program called the Diversity Leadership Institute as well that brings our communities together, and it's like the elevator pitch is, like, this program is so amazing, but the elevator pitch is like trying to explain it. It brings our communities together to serve then our undergraduate students who come from historically disenfranchised and marginalized groups within marketing and within our community as a whole. And so it's not really, okay, we checked this box or so, but what are we doing to pour into the next generations as too, and empower them to then go on and continue to do the work? And what tools and resources are we equipping them then with? And so you have to think, I think, outside of the box versus just, okay, cool, this got this many likes, or this campaign showed this many types of people from marginalized groups and so on, but really the long game of, okay, how is this impacting downstream? And who is this impacting downstream as well? Which, like you guys have said so often, it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of intentionality, and it's not going to be that quick gratification of, okay, cool, we did that, we are done. DEIA is not a destination, it is a journey, and we're in it, and I'm happy to be in it too.
So I help promote virtual meetings, physical meetings, hybrid meetings. And so one of the things that we measure is how many people are utilizing accommodations, how many people are utilizing interpretation, and then also, are we making a valiant effort to create communication plans that are reaching Spanish-speaking groups, Hmong-speaking groups. Again, it's something that we're still perfecting. And also, a lot of these services weren't, I hate to call it the city of Madison, but they weren't available, readily available, 5 years ago. So, but, it speaks volumes if the demand is there, but we also have to push it out as well. So we do measure what services are being utilized, and then also what we're using to communicate as well. Another thing that we're trying to do is even when we're reaching out to interest or and we don't use the term stakeholder anymore. So, because that is sourced in colonization, when people whoever would go to what is now the United States and put their stake on put their stake on land, going into the Caribbean. Anyway, so we're very intentional about what language we use when we are having these potential interested party, meeting with community organizations. The messaging that comes, it's one thing if the messaging comes from us. It's another thing if it's coming from a trusted source like Karen Melendez from Centro Hispano and so on. So we are measuring who we're meeting with, how many events we're having with them, how successful they are, and whether or not we can improve, the next time. And then I would like to thank Bianca too, because when we were having our regional budget engagement meetings, she was and she continues to be a platform for us to get the word out. And I really do feel like she reaches a population that wants to be more civically engaged. And that is, it's just such an crucial communication medium. So I'll leave it there. But yes, we are measuring everything.
Yeah, I mean, let's not sleep on the CityCast. Talk to Chris. Let me tell you, the way they reach their audience for that podcast and newsletter is unbelievable. They have like a 58% open rate on their newsletters. That's right, marketers, 58%. It's authenticity. Yeah. So let's just ruminate on that. Okay, time flies by when we are doing great panels like this, and we are at time. I don't want to hold everyone over, even though I feel like this conversation could keep going, and wanted to throw it out to the audience. Does anyone have any questions for our panel? Oh, here we go.
What word or phrase do you use instead of stakeholder?
Interested parties, interested individuals, possible partnerships. Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, Lauren, hold on.
So in like the marketing and event planning space, like using AMA as an example, we come up with programming and we might say like, we believe this is going to be a relevant topic. We believe this is going to be a relevant time. And we'll ask people, like, oh, does an 8 o'clock event work for you? And it turns out the people who are at an 8 o'clock event are going to say, yeah, that worked for me. How can you be more intentional in knowing who you're missing and how to reach out to them in a way that isn't like, hey, you're from this group. Would you like to speak on behalf of everyone in that group in a way that's like sensitive and inclusive when you're not part of that group at all?
Can I just say, I want to give a shout out to Carrie because I was also talking about this earlier. She started her outreach early, like really early, and her outreach wasn't necessarily transactional. She didn't really necessarily have an ask for me. She just wanted to get to know me. She did mention the possibility of a potential panel, but it wasn't something that she was trying to rig me in right away. So I think if you're having consistent outreach and you're not just reaching out to people when you need something, and I have to utilize this all the time, and I don't always, and it doesn't usually work out for me. So I'm consistently having like investor relation meetings. Not that they're investing money, but they're investing their energy and their belief system in me. So yeah, I'll leave it there.
It's a good point. I wouldn't be here otherwise. If it wasn't for that early outreach and the care that the non-transactional, I just want to double tap that. Human.
Yeah. We should round it out. Any other third and final question for our panel? No? Okay. Well, then let me just wrap things up by saying again how much I appreciate everyone coming, and I'm wildly appreciative of our panel today who took number one, their time, but their energy, and allowed us to use their likeness and their names to promote bringing people together. I would encourage people today to have an optimistic attitude about things moving forward, because I feel like when we come together with that, we are better together. So on that note, thanks again for coming.
Thank you.